Hello, hello, hello. I'm Eddie Obeng, and this is How. Daily, I bring you a different way to make your world change. Different tools, different methods. I call them people engagement tools, performance enhancement tools. This one is one which you can use almost verbatim for trying to persuade people to invest or get involved or give you resources or money for an idea which you've got. So let's jump on Cube and let me share with you the DragonSlayer. So we're on Cube, as always, where the sun is always shining. What I would like to do, this is an interactive space so that you can actually jump straight to wherever you want. So let's have a bird's eye view of the cubicle we're in. This is one of my favorite cubicles. This is a teaching cubicle for 20 people with nice overlapping windows and things. But this is our discussion board over here. And I'm going to start this DragonSlayer idea over here with a chap called Rob Law, who's sitting on a little elephant. It's called a trunky. He invented this. He went on a program called Dragon's Den, trying to persuade people to invest in him. Bit of a disaster, long story, but I was lucky enough to meet Rob Law. In fact, he came on Cube and he basically did one of our inspiration sessions, bringing in people to talk about different ways of working. I love this cubicle. Look, you can just look out there for other spaces and so on. So let's have a look at what he said. I'll pull up his video. So this is the this is the advertising video we put up before people came to the inspiration event. So that was all we put up. But let me tell you about DragonSlayer. What I learned from Rob, and basically from just trying to understand how hard it is to persuade people, is that what you want is you want to get your idea, and you want to get your idea to go to people who will understand your vision. You want it in their heads, and then they part with money or some sort of resources to try and help you. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And so what we started looking at was how to create almost a script, a way of thinking about things so that you could actually bring your idea forward and people could understand it. So we called it DragonSlayer, why Dragon's Den. And it basically is a pet which lets you create an active script of what you're doing. First thing you have to do is think about what the value you're bringing actually is. And in that one, we have a pet called the Gap Leap. So if you've come across the Gap Leap, you want to be able to apply that. If you haven't, go and look it up. And that's really what you need very near the beginning, which is a gap leap. Then you have to find a way of trying to describe what you're doing. So in his case, he was trying to explain the challenge of trying to get kids through airports faster, giving them a chance to actually see what was going on, and so on and so forth. But when he presented it, it didn't all work. So what we learned from him, and which I think he's inspired me with, is you start by saying something like, we're here to ask for, and you talk about the money, hard stuff, but then you also talk about the soft stuff you need, support, help, encouragement, and so on. So not only do you talk about the money, but you talk about what relationships or introductions you need. And then you start with the typical question which people would think about, and then how you reframe it as something which is real. Then you make it into a gap. And if you know the gap leaf, then you say, well, if we don't fix it, this is what happens. If we fix it, this is what happens. You make a story. And then when we looked at it through a client's point of view or a supplier, a partner, other people's point of view, so that the people you're presenting to know that it's not just your mad idea. The pet, there is something called sliced bread. Have a look at that. It would mean that we could achieve this and we'll be able to, and you talk about the bottom of the gap leap, things we'll do. And then if possible, there's another pet called sticky steps, which gives you the first concrete steps. Describe the first couple of concrete steps you need to take. So now you've got into their head what you're trying to encourage people to do, at which point you then jump into the second half of it. And there you're really trying to just re-summarize, tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you've told them. And for that, you're trying to re-summarize what the issue is. So if you're wondering about the size of the prize, now they're paying attention. If we do nothing, if we fix it, it'll bring you this much money. What we need from you is an investment of X, hard and soft. So in summary, what we're proposing is, so you told them 3 times. Now they understand it. This is the entire pet all here in one piece, which starts from the top to the bottom. And you just run it as a script. Don't use any extra words. Don't add any extra bits. Just literally create one sticky or a couple of stickies as a team for each of these questions. You know, there's another pet question, does data equals information? So provide them with information by putting the answers to each of these questions in here and run it through, and they will fall over themselves to give you money because you would have slayed the dragon. And remember what's always underneath the dragon? Underneath the dragon is where the gold is. So that's it, DragonSlayer. There's a quick guide if you need one. There is always the newsletter for you to look at. And I've been Eddie Obeng, and that was how.